We had mules, animals, farm animals, and we had a gate there. And I went over the gate, let's see, Clifton went under the gate, and I went over the gate, and Clyde, I forgot what he done. Anyway, we all got through there, and Clifton, I believe it was, run just as hard as he could run slam slab into the side of an old mule standing out there in the yard, and like to knock him down. And like to scared us all to death.
Lloyd lying about that. There wasn't nobody ever me and Clifton.
One time we lived at Bethel. That was when Clifton the first year he went to school. And I sent him to get to the store to get some kerosene, him and Lloyd. And it was getting dark, and I got afraid. I got afraid that they would be afraid. I was afraid they'd be afraid because it was going to get dark before they got home, and I was going to go down the road to meet them, and Elma said no, said let him go meet them instead of me. So he went to meet them. I left him to go to meet them, and instead of him helping them, he got in the ditch when he heard them coming, and they was talking about bears and everything else getting after them. And they were scared to start, and he started rattling like a bear, and boy, they cut out. They run just as hard as they could fly. And they got home, and we had 2 or 3 rows of barbed wire around the yard to keep the horse in, that the horses go out and graze, and they went right through that barbed wire and run right through the feet of one of the mules, and the mule jumped and run and broke out and stayed lost 3 days.
It was about this time in their life that the brothers of the Chalk family moved in with their aunts and uncles. For the most part, the boys were pretty good, except for the time Clifton wired his Aunt Hilda Smith's clothesline to an electric fence.
Well, he was enjoyable to have around. He was a lot of fun. But it wasn't too much fun when he charged my clothesline. When I went to hang the clothes out, it shot me.
Sometimes I want to paddle him. Particularly if he says something to me like he ought not to, which he would do. Ain't nothing he wouldn't say. Then I thought, tell him how we would paddle him good.
Just before World War II, the Chalk family moved to Norfolk, first to York Street, then to Broad Creek Village. By this time, Clifton had a sister, Earlene, another one on the way, and another brother to follow. Earlene, his oldest sister, remembers the time Lloyd saved Clifton's life, but almost lost his.
Clifton got in a fight at school when he was at a young age, and Lloyd went out to help him, and Clifton run off and left him, and Lloyd got killed. I'm sure he'll tell you that. He wasn't much of a fighter. The fight was between Clyde and Lloyd most of the time, the wrestle. Clifton didn't fight much. He wasn't that type, that I remember.
We've always been close. One of the worst beatings that I ever got in my life was at school when we were just boys. Clifton seemed like he always was antagonizing everybody. You ever see a fellow like that? And he got in a fight with 5 guys, and I came up, and they were working him over. And I thought, well, you know, it never will do for me to stand there and let those 5 guys beat my brother. So I jumped in there to help him. Well, he has always been a man that was quick to take an opportunity. And when I got in there and they got to jumping on me, and I was a little bigger than he was, one of them had a baseball bat, and that guy started swinging at me with that bat. Clifton slipped out and left me. And they liked it. They worked me over real good, and he left. And I didn't forgive him for that for a long, long time. I held it against him.
Clifton's early years in Norfolk were filled with making new friends, becoming acquainted with city life, and developing a relationship with young people in the church who would ultimately become some of his best and dearest friends.
and I go back a long way to the summer of 1942 when I moved to Virginia, and we lived on West York Street, just down the block from the Chalks, and I met Clyde first, and Clifton then, I think, shortly thereafter. But when I first met Clifton, he was always a very aggressive individual, which he and I didn't exactly hit it off right at the first meeting. But it took a little time,
I would say about 1945 is the first year of the summer that I met Clifton. We were attending a church right off of where he was living. And then it was called Virginia Avenue. And a woman minister by the name of Sister Harmon had a tent set up beside her house. And I think maybe this was the first year that I had met Clifton, his whole family. But by 1946 or 47, we had gone away to the service. I went away to the service in the early part of 46. And I no longer had contact with him until I came back out of the service. By then, Brother Clifton had been moving around in the area, and we had met a few other people. And so during this time, some of Clifton's friends that were living in Broad Creek Village where he lived become friends of ours in the church as well.
Well, I tell you, I've been trying to remember when we first met, and I think it must have been when Cliff and Clyde used to come down to swim by the Elizabeth River. I remember that was where I learned to swim, too. They taught me. But my main memories of those days are of following Cliff from job to job. Every time he would quit, he'd recommend me. So I followed him from Saunders Revision Company to Lowe's State to Norfolk Tin and Awning. I only wish he'd gone into show business. Maybe I'd work more often. But we had some good times and some bad times occasionally, too. I remember once we were about 14 and an English sailor who was teaching us Morse code at the British Seamen's Club asked for permission to molest us. Fortunately, not knowing what that meant at the time, we refused. He's just an incredible human being, I've just been an incredible friend. I mean, I remember when I was working down the naval base, he would come over, and if my car wouldn't start, he would start it for me. And one time he drilled a hole in his leg, putting a bumper on my old Hillman. He was really just incredible. And but indescribable is the adjective that comes to mind.
I met Cliff in the early 50s, I believe it was. We both lived in Royal Creek Village, and we had some really good times together, real super times. Well, he was a very friendly person. He was always showed a lot of friendliness towards everyone. And his family and my family became very close friends, his brothers and sisters and my sister and different ones of us who were young people. I attended one church, Cliff attended another, but we used to visit each other's churches, and we had a lot of fun times together. And we used to go to the airport after church, like on Wednesday nights or Sunday nights or something in that order, and we'd have a whole group of young people, of his friends, my sister, and different ones, and we'd go to a portion of the airport, Norfolk Municipal Airport, before it expanded so much like it has today. And we would skate. We had street skates, and we would skate on the concrete out there. It was concrete, paved, and we used to skate there. And I recall some of the names. My sister Nancy, there was a girl named Dottie, another one named Betty, and of course Earlene and Pat, and some of the guys, Billy, Cliff, myself, Clyde. bride, a whole group of us from the two churches would get together and have quite a lot of fun.
One time in probably in 77 or 70, about 1977, 10, 11 years ago, we were in Fort Worth, Texas. We'd flown in there and with on a private plane, and Clifton and C.W. Goforth and myself. And so I didn't understand what they were going to do with all of our clothes, and so we landed the private plane, and so Clifton and C.W. went into the terminal, and they left all the clothes behind. I thought, well, I guess I'm supposed to take them, so I took all of their luggage and all of my luggage, and here I come walking up to the terminal, and all these clothes and all this baggage hanging all over me, and they were standing in the lobby just laughing their sides off at me. And I said, what's so funny? They said, well, we were going to take a car and go out there and get the clothes, Gordon. You didn't have to carry them that far. It's probably like a block coming up there, and they really thought I was, I don't know what, they thought I couldn't wait, I guess, but it was rather a funny incident time that happened.
My first recollection, I think, of Clifton was he was tall and long and lanky, skinny, but very friendly, very outgoing person. Clifton was always very thoughtful of me. I think maybe I was his adopted sister, maybe. I felt that way anyway. He always made me feel comfortable. I had gotten married real young. My husband wasn't in the church, per se. And I think he always had a special feeling for me because of that. And then Laverne, my little girl, was well, she's a little bit younger than his youngest sister, Pat. And the young people always accepted me. I was young, they accepted me as I was, and we enjoyed serving the Lord together and doing things together. We did a lot of dumb things, like I know one night a whole group of us went down to church to prayer meeting, and the only transportation we had was in a closed-in panel truck, you know, like a van. And the dumb thing, the only way you could get into the back of it, everybody got in and then the person locked the door, you know, from the outside. And I was like this with my second child. And we were riding down through a water area down toward Little Creek. And it was just such bad weather you couldn't see at all. And the car lights went out and the motor knocked off, and it was just really treacherous because we really could have been killed. Thank God there's not that much traffic. There wasn't that much traffic then as there is now. And so you talking about young people praying, they really got a hold of the Lord. We all did, because we knew we were in really bad trouble. And all of a sudden, I was desperate, because it wasn't just me, it was my baby too. And I laid my hands on that dashboard like so and said, in Jesus' name, and those lights came on. I mean, instantaneously. Whether I shook the dashboard and caused them to come on, or whether it was just intercession from God above, those lights did come on. We always felt like it was a miracle. And we got on to church safely, but there had been a lot of dangerous things, but then it was fun, and it was serious too. At that moment, it was very serious.